Hi guys, welcome to Life is for the Living. Today I want to share the second part of my story. And funny enough, no subscriber DM'd me and asked me when I was, bringing it out. I didn't think maybe someone was waiting to hear it, but then anyway, today I want to tell the second part of the story. My story is so long, but then I'll break it into parts. Before I begin, I want to give a shout out to a subscriber by the name Mutisia Maweu. Thank you so much, Mr. Maweu, for encouraging and also subscribing to my channel, and just taking your time to leave a comment so that I know that you're watching. Now, if you haven't watched my first story, it's good. I'll pin it up here so that you can be able to see the story, so that because it all connects. So sometimes maybe when you listen to the second part, you might miss a lot. Now I remember, so this story actually is just based on the 2 years that I was in high school, in Form 3 and Form 4, the one that I used to work, the day school. Now, if you remember from the first story, there was a time I told you there was some leopard attack, which happened in the village, but then I wasn't like directly affected. It's a story that I came to hear after I had come from school. But then after that week, I was like really afraid, I couldn't, I would wake up, but then, like the previous day we just had there was a leopard that was walking around and it killed, at night it attacked people's, flock, the sheep, and now there you are, you have to go to school. So, I mean, it's normal for, I was 17 by then. So for a 17-year-old and a girl and living that early, I mean, anything could be lacking in the bushes. And trust me, I used to meet a lot of things and a lot of people. Because that morning, I remember I used to tell you, I told you that I lived, in the area which I come from, we used to plant a lot of sugarcane plantations. So very early in the morning, I would meet, cane cutters, these people who go harvesting cane, and they'll be carrying, pangas, and, it used to be scary. And sometimes, I even just wonder, how come I made it through, even such? Because I would meet men, and for those who know how those cane cutters work, they were rowdy people. So, in fact, there was one day, I remember in the morning, our paths would cross with some of them. So, one day in the morning, my path happened to cross, with one of them, and then he was mumbling to himself, but he clearly wasn't happy, or he was upset about something. So I remember when our paths crossed, he mumbled something but that was loud enough that I could hear. So he was like, one day I will kill someone or I'll cut someone with this, this panga. But then, I wasn't cut. But then for him just to have said that at the time when our paths were crossing, it got me thinking. So I actually came up with a device, just a way of how to survive. So what I did, I told myself, since that time, anyone I meet on the way that early, I would, greet them. Sometimes greeting someone kind of disarms them. I mean, that's the best I could do anyway. So, of course, I would meet people, I would say hi to them. Some would, greet back, some wouldn't. But then, anyway, just to make sure that, our paths cross and then nothing happens. And then I'll be very conscious, of my environment. If there's someone, let's say, maybe following me from behind or approaching me, from, in front, I would actually read, their just their behavior or something, just in case. But anyways, now that week when there was that leopard attack, I remember there were two ways that I used to use to school. Now there's a shortcut that I would use, that would pass through that friends of mine, the homestead where I used to pick that friend of mine. And then there's this other path that I would, use. That is the longest route, because it would take me half an hour longer to reach to school. But then that was the highway. So but it had less bushes, the roads were wider. But then these other paths that I used to use, the shortcuts, were really narrow, and tiny. So it happened that, after the leopard attack, I remember that week I was really afraid. So one day, just I think a day or two after, that incident, I was walking to school, but then on the way, I just had this fear in me. like, and you know, and there's this sense that sometimes when you feel there's something lacking, or there's just something in the environment, there's this fear that just creeps you from nowhere. So I was afraid. And to some extent, I mean, I don't think it was actually even the leopard, afraid of the leopard or something. But then my system, there's the hairs at the back of my, my neck were just like standing. So I would walk, but then after a few steps, I would like stop, like to hear if there's any footprints, behind me or something. And then so I went past some, okay, there was this homestead, like there was just, there were so many homesteads along the way, my way to school. So I went past a certain homestead, but then from there, actually that was the last homestead, and then from there, like I would go through like a whole, plantation, just a long path, like almost 100 to 200 meters, just both side plantation of, sugarcane, and the paths were really narrow. So when I read that place, like my spirit just refused to move. Or fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know, I would just say fortunately, there was this old man, in one of the homesteads that early. I don't know, I think he had woken up to, go to the bathroom or something, because it was 4 in the morning, or maybe he was prepared to milk or whatever he wanted to do, I'm not so sure. So when I saw him, I stood, I said hi to him, and then I knew him, but then it's not like we used to talk or something. But then that was the early, the first time I saw him that early. And then for some reason I just told him, like, I'm kind of afraid of going through the sugarcane and stuff. So at first he told me, why don't I just sit there and wait until maybe it's a bit brighter enough, the day to break before I go. I was a bit hesitant because, one, I didn't want to be late for school, and two, of course, being late for school meant punishment, and there was a lot that came, with it. So I was, hesitant. Already I was talking to him, so I just didn't want to like sound rude and just say, okay, let me go or something. But I was a bit, just in that moment of hesitation. I don't know what he read in me, and he just he told me, like, give me a minute. So he went inside the house. I was still standing outside because his house was not very far away from the fence where I was talking, to him through. Because, those homesteads at home, they're not like, permanent fences. There's like live fences, so you could see through. So he told me to give, just to wait. So I didn't know what he was, going to the house to do. And then he went, grabbed a cot, and then with some bakora, that's a stick. And then he told me, come, we go. Okay. I don't know what made him make up his mind like that. The old man decided to, escort me part of the distance. So, and as we were going, he didn't talk much along the way. The only thing he told me, like, it's really very dangerous for you, like this early as a girl in the morning. But then it's something actually he just said in like kind of passing. But then most of the journey we walked in silence. So we went through the sugarcane plantation. And then once we go to the other side, I actually told him I think I'm okay, because I saw like, after the sugarcane plantation, there were some other homesteads. So like I could see some activities, some people were going to the farm that early. So I told him, like, from there, I think I'm okay. And then he actually said he doesn't mind taking me further, but then I said it's okay. Because actually I was feeling so, like he's an old guy, and, nevertheless, I mean, he had, taken me part of the journey. So he went back. So I went to school as usual. That's one of those incidents that my system just refused, like there was just something. All right, so that week went past, like, and then I think to like almost within the month or maybe a month after that. Now, I used to go with this girl, I used to pass by her home and then go with her to school. But then it happened that day when, when I didn't feel like, crossing the sugarcane alone, the lady, I think the mom or the dad, someone was sick in their homestead. So she had told me that the previous day that she would not go to school the following day. So, all right. So like a month, I think after that, it used to be a routine. Like I would leave my home, I'd pass by her home, and then we would go together. Sometimes I would wake her up. She used to be a heavy sleeper, so I would wake her up sometimes, and then, or sometimes I would find like her mom or wherever had woken her up, so she was, ready. So one incident, like from my home, when I used to come from my home, I had to cross like a large field. There was a place where there's just like a large field, nothing, because that's one of the places that we used to go and get water from. There was a water hole somewhere there. So it just used to be someone's farm, but then nothing was planted on it, just like an open field. And then across the open field is where, that lady, that girl used to stay. So from my home, so when I got to the clearing of the open field, I could see ahead. Remember, it's dark, but not like really, really dark, very dark. So, and we used to put on like white shirts and gray skirts. So I couldn't see like the lower part because, of course, gray in the dark is not, but white is very bright. You could actually tell there is, a figure or something. So like when I approached, the beginning of the field before I cross and get to the lady's place, I spotted someone at, just outside her house. I spotted a white shirt, so I knew, at least today I will not get late. So, I felt good that at least today we will just get to school in time. So I crossed the field, and as I was crossing the field, when I reached like midway, she started walking, like the way towards school. So I told myself maybe she just didn't want to keep standing, or she's been standing for long and she knows that I've seen her. So like she just started walking, slowly so that I catch up. So and the more now, so her home was like three. After her house, I had to cross like two other, pass through two other homesteads, and then then I get to the homestead of that old guy who had escorted me, and then from there, then we go through the sugarcane plantation. So I saw her walking. So I was walking, and for some reason, that distance was not, I was not closing up enough. Like I thought she was walking slowly, but the more I increased the pace, and somehow it's like she was also increasing the pace. But okay, I didn't catch up with her, but I knew there was someone ahead, so I kept walking. So actually, I even passed by the Muse's house, that old guy's house. Okay, I didn't see anyone there, but then I just passed, and then went through the sugarcane and then to the other side. So and then after walking, like I could see the white shirt in front of me, but then I wasn't like catching up. Then after like some time, since it's there's so many other students who came from some those homestead near schools, people could join the path. So I couldn't even now pick her up from the many white shirts that were joining the road. So I just knew she was somewhere ahead. So nevertheless, I went to school. So in the evening, because we used to go in the morning together and come back in the evening. In the evening, could either wait for her at the gate or she would wait for me. So when I got to the gate, I didn't see her. So I asked one of her classmates, where she was, and then she told me like she didn't come to school. She hadn't come to school that day. I was like, that's not possible, because I saw her in the morning, and actually she was ahead of me, and I was coming. She told me no, she hasn't come, and even when the teacher called the register, she wasn't there. I was like, no, maybe she came and she was unwell and she went back home or something. So the girl actually told me no, she didn't come, because even if she'd have come in the morning, they would have seen her even before the lessons. So anyway. I started walking home. Of course, there were other students who we would walk together until they disappear into their homesteads, and then I was left alone because I came from the farthest. It was like the rest of the students, then her, and then me. So I used to come from the farthest home. So when I was going back home, I stopped by her place. I was like, I didn't buy the story that she didn't come because I had seen her in the morning. So I wondered, like, did she divert? Did she not reach school, or what happened to her? So when I passed by her home, the first thing actually, she saw me before I saw her. Then she started shouting. She told me she asked why I had not woken her up that morning. And actually she said she didn't come to school because she thought maybe I was late for school, and her too, she had overslept. I was like, no, I saw you in the morning. So I actually showed her where she was standing, because I was just outside her homestead. Like, you were standing over here, and then I saw you. And then when I was, crossing the field, when I reached halfway, you started walking. She told me no, she never woke up and nobody woke her up. I was like, then who the hell was I following to school? Like, was I following a ghost or something? I don't know. Like I followed something. I'm so sure I saw someone and the person was walking. But then now it kept me thinking like, no wonder I couldn't like, like reduce the gap. I don't know. Anyway, it happened. So that's one other incident that happened to me. Now, after that, now almost in the middle of the school year, when I was in Form 4, one day I was just coming from school, and my days were not, my schooling days were not like, there's nothing much fun about it. It was just like normal routine, go to school, come back home, that kind of thing. So sometimes I would use like, whenever this girl, whenever she would come, go to school, I would pass by her home and pick her. But then sometimes like on the day she didn't come, I would sometimes opt to use the highway because it was less, like bushy and stuff. So one day I was just like coming from school and she wasn't there and I was just tired. So I told myself, I just need to use the longer route home. Like, so I started walking and, like I could walk like almost like I think it's 2 kilometers or something. I would get to a shopping center and then from that shopping center I'd have to another stretch of around like I think 7 or 8 kilometers. And then I get to the shopping center, the one that now, the main shopping center of our home. And then from there, and then again, I'll have to walk another maybe 3 kilometers now home. So once I got to the last shopping center, the one next to our home, I met some ladies that I knew and they greeted me. So I saw them smiling, but I was wondering what the smiles were about. So one of them asked me like whether I'm feeling so happy. I'm like, I didn't even get where that question was coming from. Like there was nothing different from the usual. So like I don't even know why she was asking. And I said, yeah, I'm happy. It's just like one of those things that when someone asks you like, how are you? You'll always say you're fine, even maybe when you're not fine. So I didn't pay much attention to whatever she had said, but for a second it lingered in my mind, like why would she even ask me that? Anyway, so I walked home. So our homestead is designed such a way that when you get near my homestead, the gate is somewhere like the far end, but then you'd walk, along the path, the fence, and then our fence, this live fences, so you could see actually inside the homestead, but then you couldn't pass through, the fence until you get to the gate. So I could see someone seated outside our house, but then I couldn't figure out who that person was, because it's like a distance. So I kept walking, and then when I got in, I saw someone seated outside, a lady, and she was, smiling at me. So I looked at her, from afar I couldn't see clearly, and then when I got closer, I actually could figure out who she was. That was my mom. And I had not seen my mom for like almost 9 years. Because my mom left when I was 9 years and then she came back like, when I was 17. That was almost 8-9 years. So the only thing, okay, I said hi to her and then I didn't have anything else to tell her. We were like we were strangers. I didn't know her. So we exchanged greetings and then I stood there, I looked at her. Then after just a few, seconds, tears just started rolling down my cheek. And actually, maybe someone looking at me would think like, there were tears of joy, but I think it was a mixture, but it was much more things, just much more than joy. In my heart, I was like, asking so many questions, like, where have you been? Why are you coming back now? I've been through a lot, a lot of things, but I couldn't put them into words. So my tears just rolled down, and then, well, after some time, and that's why even when I'm telling this story, this story I haven't even told, many people. Like, it's just something that it's been in me for like so many years, more than, just so many years. So, but then in the end, I was happy somehow because there was a bit of relief, because I remember I used to come from school, and then I had to, look for firewood and cook for the kids and, make sure they ate. And it was just a tiresome job, especially after doing that distance with food. It was just long. So at least life changed a little bit from there. Like my mom would wake up early in the morning and make sure I've had breakfast. My mom would actually escort me to school. So I literally didn't even need any other person. So like she would take me up to, a certain distance when I was, where I was okay, and then she would come back. And then one day, now there were like 2 other incidents that I can remember. I don't know if maybe there were others, but then there were 2 other incidents that happened. Now these ones happened when my mom was there. The first one, one day, I was just leaving, home. But then that day, for some reason, I had overslept. And then, so I woke up late. I woke up at around 5. And by 4, I used to be out of the house. So 5 is late already, because 5 I'm always like, I used to be very far. So I woke up, and then my mom was like, "No, see, you're late. Just maybe stay." I told her like, I can't. Like, I'll just go. So it took me some, I prepared very quickly. So by around 5:30, I left the house. So when and in most cases, the time I used to leave the house, the village used to be very quiet. People were still asleep by that time. So, but when I left, because remember that day was a little bit late. When I left, just when I was just getting outside, our gate, I met a neighbor's kid, a boy. So we exchanged greetings. So I actually asked him like where he was going that early. Like I'm not used to seeing people around there. So he told me like he was going to look for some grass so that he can thatch his house. For those who know those grass thatched houses, so he was going to look for one. So anyway, nothing much, because we were not even friends. I just said hi out of courtesy, because it's something I had, I used to tell myself I'll be saying hi to whoever I meet in the morning. And then after I walked for like maybe 50 meters. I met another boy who asked me whether I had seen that guy, just the boy that I had greeted. Yeah, because I think they were to go together wherever they were going. So I said, yes, I've just met him just outside our gate, so he's not far. I didn't pay much attention. I went to school. So when I came back in the evening, my mom asked me, told me that the boy that I had met at first, that boy is very sick. So I told my mom, what are you talking about? Because I met the boy in the morning and he was okay and he was going to look for, grass. So my mom told me that his leg is like, swollen. He can't walk. I told him maybe where he had gone to get grass, that's where he had his leg. Maybe he stepped on something, and it's in the rural area. Some people even walk barefoot, so maybe he had been cut by something, stepped on a nail. Could be. So I said anyway, and those are some of the things that we used to go through. I'm like, maybe it's just something. Now that day went by. The following day, when I came back, my mom was like, do you know this guy, like now both of his legs are swollen? So I was actually even wondering why my mom is giving me updates of this guy. Like we were not even friends, but then but it was just like an immediate neighbor. So I said, anyway, has he been taken to hospital? Then they said, I don't know, he was given some medicine, some drugs, whatever. And then now when I came on the third day, like to like say something that happened on a Tuesday, and then a Wednesday, and then a Thursday. So when I came on the third day, so I was still like, he got so worse that he wasn't breathing, so he was taken to hospital. So like, he can't breathe. So the moment my mom was telling me that he's like, the boy has been taken to hospital, it didn't take like even 2 hours after that, we had, screams from his homestead. And then it came that the boy had died. I'm like, I met this boy 3 days ago. He was well. He was going to... All right, people die. I don't know. Like, and me, I never used to, I never used to socialize a lot with the, people in the village. So, like, that's just like another death. And then later is when I came to discover that, I came to hear now, people talk. That actually what had happened, the mother of the boy, for whatever reason, because it's another long story, but I don't want to bring it here because it literally doesn't touch me. But then something had happened in her homestead, and then, there are these people who believe in, like, I think, black magic. So she was told for whatever that was, had happened, it's another story. She had to put something on the way that the first person to, jump over or skip, that person would die, and then it will reverse whatever it was that was happening in her homestead. Now, you know what happened? You remember that I used to leave very early, but that day what happened, when I met the boy, I happened to oversleep for no apparent reason. And who did I meet outside our gate was that boy. So wherever that thing had been placed, the first person who jumped was the son to this woman. So whatever that was put on the way was put for me to jump, because they knew I'm the one who used to pass there early. So it's like, it's a death that was meant for me. No. So actually, generally, I don't believe in, magic and black magic or whatever. So me just used to pray to God. And, I used to tell myself, like, you're born on one day and you'll die in one day. So, like, even when those stories were going around the village, I just used to, because I used to actually find strange things on the way. But then I remember my grandma used to tell us, like, when you find things on the way, just pass, go round, don't jump. But when it's 5 or 4 in the morning, it's not easy for you to see, because of the darkness and there was no electricity back then. So I actually think it's just God who used to protect me, definitely all the way, every day. So when that boy, the funeral was done and the boy is buried and everything, that woman like developed some hate for me. Like she wouldn't stand my side or whatever. Anyway, I didn't care anyway. So that's an incident that happened. And then now the last thing that I can remember happened also during my school days. Now I remember I told you my mom used to escort me. So one day, as usual, she was escorting me. So there is this, I told you like we used to pass through, like in between sugarcane plantation. So on this day, I happened to pass through we were together actually. My mom was behind and I was ahead. So when we were walking, I was ahead, and then I saw like some movement, like I was so aware of the environment because I'd been walking those routes for a long time. I could tell something that is, different from the usual. So I saw some little movement, but then I just thought maybe it was a squirrel or something. And then when I looked closely, sometimes when you get into the dark, your eyes tend to focus. So when I got into the dark, I saw someone was just squatting under some bush. So I was scared, but I didn't say anything. So I just walked and my mom was behind me. So we walked until when we got to a clearing place, I asked my mom whether he had seen the guy who was squatting on the road. And then, on the bushes, and my mom was like, he didn't see anyone. So we walked until a place where I was comfortable. I told my mom, now you can go back. My mom said she can't go back because she doesn't know who that person is or whatever the intentions of that person were. So my mom, that day escorted me way further than usual, But then that kept me thinking, like, what if I was alone? And I don't know who that person was, what his intentions were, but it happened. But thank God it happened when my mom was there. And then, those are like the many incidences that I can remember that happened, like maybe worth telling when I was in school. But then again, that's what I'm saying, sometimes, believing that, there is a protector out there is just good, because most of these things that kept happening to me, I kept wondering, how come I kept escaping each and every incident, Like there was the ghost, I don't know, whoever I was following. Then there was this boy who jumped, whatever. Then there was this guy, and then I used to meet people carrying machetes, or like, why, like nothing happened. I never met a wild animal. I never met anyone who threatened me like directly. I never met anyone who like even dragged me, into the plantation, all those things that happen to girls. And so those were all the signs and reasons as to why I told myself I can't give up. Like, I am a living testimony. And I never even thought I would one day open a YouTube channel and even tell my story. But then, why not again, right? So anyway, this is where I want to end, part 2 of my story. There's a part 3 coming anyways. So I hope you enjoyed. I don't know whether it's an enjoying story, or I hope you listened. I'm just like talking, and I'm hoping someone on the other end is listening. I mean, it's just a way of me letting, talking here, so that someday when I'm not there, someone will say, we knew her. Isn't she that lady who, So that's me for now. Until next time, remember to like and subscribe and share, comment. Thank you, and see you.